in the way of my future like you said he was in the way of yours.
Tariq, if you do this, you can never go back.
I'm with you in the sense that the way the story was sold and told to me is not befitting of the way it ended, guys. So y'all have every right to be like, it didn't end right.
It's too late.
Now, I've just come off rewatching Power, as you guys can probably tell from the various OG Power breakdowns I've been doing over the past few weeks. I just finished season 6, Tariq has just shot and killed Ghost, and as I always make a point of seeing things through a different lens, I have been watching Power with a different perspective this time around. I was also reading a lot of old quotes, a lot of interviews from Courtney Kemp to various different actors, and as time's gone on, as the years have passed and as various different actors have done interviews on the show, after I just watched Tariq shoot Ghost yet again, I want to go back to this statement from Omari Hardwick where he slammed the ending for Power. He said it didn't end right. The way the show was sold to him wasn't the way it should have ended. A Power fan favourite was killed by his son at the top of Club Truth, the cornerstone of Power at the time, and still the face of the Power franchise. That's not the message that he wanted to send. Did Power's ending do Ghost dirty, and is the bridge burned to the point where a return is impossible even in maybe a voiceover capacity for Power Origins? Definitely get in the comment section and let me know where you guys stand and your thoughts as well. It would be quite intriguing to see and read what you guys think. As always, stick with this video right through to the very end, because there is a lot to unpack in what I would say is a fresh take on the ending of Power, based on what we've recently seen in Raising Kanan, and also the current news and where we are at this moment in time with the Power universe. Are Starz also in trouble with their latest revenue announcement, and where does Power fit into all of that? We're going to be breaking that down as well. But let's start by just recapping Ghost's death and how it relates to what we've recently seen in the world of Power. Then in part 2, we're going to be talking about whether Ghost could actually return in Power Origins to voice over the show like 50 does for Raising Kanan, but why I also think it may be quite a bit of a challenge. Now, towards the end of season 6, Ghost's political ambitions were at the forefront of his mind. He went from wanting to be the biggest drug dealer to a businessman, to then trying to build his name and reputation in politics. The problem with that was, Ghost had a history and a past he just couldn't run from, and in fact, Tommy warned him way back in season 1.
We're not like these people, Ghost. You and me in the paper ain't a good thing. You and me in the paper means we got God.
These people don't know about our other thing, man. One picture.
There's too many. You standing next to these people in pictures? The next question is, who the fuck is this guy?
They weren't like these people because of what they did for a living. His face in front of cameras, attention, being in the media, being in the spotlight, that's not who they were. Keep a low profile, ice who they need to ice, get on with business low-key away from the spotlight. Because let's face it, we all know how politics works. People will use whatever they can to make their opponent look bad. Whether it's their history, how they got to their certain position, any small thing about someone's past, they're going to use it to discredit them. We saw a back and forth a lot between Rashad Tate and Ghost. It also happens in real life. When you enter politics, best believe, people are going to be digging deep for any kind of information they can use. Another example is Pablo Escobar. He tried his hand in politics, but he was named and shamed because of his past, and slowly it then started to unravel. But this was years in the making for Ghost for a lot of different reasons. Although if you go by Courtney Kemp's timeline, Power took place across a span of 6 months.
What?
Now, jokes aside, Ghost had a very strained relationship and a marriage with Tasha, conflicts with Tariq and Tommy over the many years. His love interest, Angela Valdez, was also an AUSA, and that relationship really complicated a lot of things, including his relationship with Tariq. There were battles with Milan, Lobos, Jason Michich, Dre, Simon Stern, and law enforcement. They were all contributing factors. However, the biggest battle of them all, in my personal opinion, was with Kanan. As I said, everything contributed towards him being here, but more so everything that happened between him, Kanan, and Tariq.
But you gotta make the man's move. It was always gonna go this way. You know it. Just gotta step into it.
Now, this was the ultimate get back from Kanan, having his own son take him out for betraying him all those years ago. And we all know after watching Raising Kanan, Power's narrative revolves around manipulation and reflecting cycles of trauma and betrayals. In Raising Kanan, a young Kanan is manipulated by Rock to shoot his father, Detective Howard. He's then manipulated by Snaps and Pop to turn him against his own mother, Rock. And it then mirrors how the older Kanan then grooms Tariq when he's older in OG Power. The way he manipulates him and turns him against his father, and then right at the end, convinces him he has to be the one to kill Ghost. Kanan's childhood trauma shapes his worldview because of what we've seen him go through in raising Kanan, and then he passes this resentment and betrayal onto Tariq, who then resents Ghost even more.
She's been doing me proud, okay? What you think Ghost's gonna do when she pull a gun on him? She pull, he pull, it's over. But he won't see that coming from you. Just like I did.
So, as I sat rewatching Power over the past few weeks, I found myself comparing a lot of what Kanan went through when he was younger to the way he was with Tariq, to some of the things he said and the way he manipulated him. Power is a constant vicious cycle, and the more we watch Raising Kanan, the more we start to understand Kanan's decisions, why he was the way he was, how he probably also manipulated Ghost when he was younger. For those who haven't seen my Snaps and Pop connection all the way to Ghost, I would highly recommend giving this a watch. I will put the link in the description section and also down below in the comment section. But we're also going to soon find out the real reason why Ghost killed Breeze, and what happened to Curtis St. Patrick, and I can guarantee, even if you don't agree with Tariq killing Ghost, even if you don't like the ending of Power, which if I were to be honest and transparent, from my personal viewpoint, I agree with Omari Hardwick. I personally didn't like the ending of Tariq killing Ghost. I'm not a fan of this father and son killing storyline and that particular cycle from Power. That's just my opinion. But with what we've seen in Raising Kanan up until this date, with what we're yet to see in Power Origins from a young Ghost, Tommy, Kanan, Breeze, what really happened with Curtis St. Patrick, Breeze, and everybody else around their orbit? This scene right here when Tariq pulled the trigger on Ghost, it's gonna make even more sense after we finish Raising Kanan and after we finish all those main events in Power Origins.
I killed Breeze because he got in the way of my future.
Like I mentioned before, Power is a vicious cycle. We've been through Kanan's manipulation and why it made so much sense in terms of why he was manipulating Tariq and why he convinced him he had to be the one to pull the trigger. He went through something very similar when he was Tariq's age. But Tariq's actions also stems from Ghost's lies about him being a drug dealer. His affair with Angela also played a huge role in the turning point in the relationship between Ghost and Tariq. Tariq also wasn't happy with the fact that Ghost wanted him to hand himself in, when Ghost said if anybody's going to take the rap for their family, it was going to be him. Now, did Omari Hardwick agree with the ending? Definitely not. There's a lot of quotes and interviews that we can look at when it comes to how he didn't agree with the ending of Power. Like I mentioned, I personally didn't like it, but I can understand it. And even though I don't have a crystal ball, even though some of you probably think I do, in the future, this will make even more sense after we finish Raising Kanan and after we see certain events unfold in Power Origins. There's a lot of history and backstory that we still need to run through. It's going to take a few years to get there, but eventually when we watch Power Origins, I'll probably do another breakdown very similar to this one, analysing the ending of OG Power, and then we'll probably be able to add even more depth and probably look at it from a different perspective and be able to make sense of it even more. Even then, it doesn't mean you have to like the ending. I probably still won't, but we can still be mature about it and look at it from a storyline perspective. With that being said, let's talk about Power Origins and whether or not I can see Omari Hardwick returning to potentially voice over the show or even in a hallucination scene in the future. Now, it is fair to say over what we've seen, what we've heard, some of the quotes that I've shown you in this particular breakdown, Omari Hardwick really wasn't happy with the ending of Power. He wasn't happy with his bag. Everyone knows how he feels. They even asked him to return around the season 2 mark, which was when Tariq received the letter from Ghost when he was in jail. But they couldn't even strike a deal to bring him back for a simple voiceover for the letter back in Ghost season 2.
They asked me before to come back. They asked me in the last year and a half to come back. When I was offered this. When I was in Boston reading this script, I was in Boston saying, okay, then this.
So, the more that time passes, the more I genuinely start to question whether it's even going to happen when it comes to doing voiceover for Power Origins. That's if they do want to do voiceovers for Power Origins. I genuinely don't know if Omari Hardwick would even consider it.
I seen everything. But the craziest shit I ever seen.
You know, you ain't wrong about this butter pecan.
Was a nigga who came back from the dead.
Now, before Raising Kanan, voiceovers wasn't really a thing with Power. I mean, there have been other shows that have used voiceovers, but for Power specifically, it was never a thing. But now when we watch Raising Kanan, that's one of the first things I look forward to when I watch any episode. What does Kanan say at the beginning of the episode, and what does Kanan say by the time we get to the end of the episode? It's always the first chapter of any of my episode breakdowns, because it paints a picture of Kanan's psyche. It paints a picture of that theme of that particular episode, or the theme of that particular moment in his life. Just like how there was a kind of classroom theme in Power Book 2 Ghost. In Raising Kanan, we've got Kanan's narration. Where does he see himself at this moment in time in his journey, and what's his current mindset? What's his thoughts on Rock? When Dewey's failed to show up to his house in 102, when Famous died in season 4, or when Duke got her first kill. Those are just a couple of examples. Each and every single one of those voiceovers helps break down Kanan's psyche for where he is at that moment in time, or where other characters are. And because of 50's narration with Raising Kanan, because it's such a huge part of the show, a lot of us now want Omari Hardwick to narrate Power Origins in the same manner. I'm one of them. I definitely want Omari Hardwick to narrate Power Origins for sure. But realistically, will it happen? I'm not too sure. Recently, Starz posted some figures which saw a Q2 revenue drop by 8%, and subscriptions also declining, which I have been keeping up to date with. I was reading a lot of comments saying if Ghost was alive, this would never have happened. They just need to bring Ghost back and the viewers and numbers will also be back, which I do partly agree with. The numbers would actually be off the chain, even for a return as a voiceover for Power Origins. We know the show's going to be quite popular anyway because it's young Ghost and Tommy. It's something the Power audience has been waiting for a very long time. Adding the original Ghost to do the voiceovers, that's just an added bonus which would be the icing on the cake. But bringing Omari Hardwick back isn't the be all and end all, because if you actually have a look at what they've done since Power, look at what Book 2 Ghost did, they broke records. Power Book 2 Ghost Season 4's premiere proved they can still break records. You just need clarity with the audience, good Power shows, good writing. I guess that point debatable for Book 2, but definitely not too big of a gap between Power shows. I mean, the gap between 4 Season 2 and Season 3 is going to be 2 years. 2 years since we last saw Tommy Egan cancelling Christmas. It's a very long wait, but you will see those subscriptions come back later on in the year. Of course, if they brought Ghost back in any kind of capacity. I've been a big fan of bringing him back in a hallucination for Tommy or Tariq. I've said that's something that just simply has to happen in Power Legacy. But honestly, I'm not too sure because of the way Power ended. I'm not too sure because of the way Omari Hardwick's spoken over the past couple of years. The back and forth between him and 50 Cent, it definitely was a bit of a misunderstanding. But has the bridge been burnt? That's the question. Him coming back alive is definitely out of the question for me. I think way too much time has passed. I think too much has happened in Tariq's journey, in Tommy's journey. It just wouldn't make sense. In the world of TV, I mean, I guess anything is possible and you can never rule it out 100% for sure. But I just personally can't see it happening. But for Omari Hardwick to say yes to any kind of return, like he said before, it would just have to be the perfect thing after the ending of OG Power. After everything that's gone on, in his words, it would just have to be the perfect thing. So, is that voicing over Power Origins for a show written by Sasha Penn? Is that the perfect thing? Maybe. Who better to have than the character that played Ghost for 6 seasons on Power? But again, the more time that passes, the more I'm leaning towards it probably not happening because of what's been said in the past, and probably unlikely in my opinion. Hopefully I'm wrong, but recently my gut feeling when it comes to these sorts of things with Power does end up being true. But let me know what you guys think. Was Omari Hardwick right to be pissed off at the way Power ended? We went through a different kind of analysis of the ending of OG Power, and I think once Raising Kanan comes to an end, maybe we'll revisit it once again and we might have a different thought process. We definitely will by the time Power Origins comes around, that's for sure. And on Power Origins, do you guys think Omari Hardwick will voice over the show? Do they even need a voiceover? I'd like to think so. I really would love the older Ghost to narrate his and Tommy's journey when they were younger. And I do think it would be the perfect thing that Omari Hardwick was talking about. But who knows, let's see if he goes for it. Let's see what the future has in store. Drop all your thoughts down below in the comment section, and as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.